Welcome to DnD Builds, where we have an outlet to make all sorts of ridiculous Dungeons and Dragons characters and stop driving the people in our lives insane with them. Make sure to subscribe if you like D&D content, and this time I wanted to build a Batman villain. So I went ahead and asked my Patreon, and they voted for Scarecrow. So let's make a fear-based build. And fear in D&D is incredibly powerful because it inflicts the frightened effect, and a frightened creature has disadvantage on all ability checks and attack rolls while the source of its fear is within sight. And a frightened creature can't willingly move closer to the source of its fear. So if you happen to be the one that's causing the fear, your enemies are just gonna stay away from you. We're gonna be trying to stick mostly to the actual character of Scarecrow from Batman, but if you stick around until the end, I'll give some quick tips on how to make a much more fear-focused build. First things first, we gotta pick a race. So we're gonna choose the race human because Dr. Jonathan Crane, aka Scarecrow, is pretty much a normal human. But we're going to take the human variant, allowing us to choose a feat right at first level, as well as a skill. And the skill we're going to grab right away is intimidation, because that's the closest thing we have to just straight up making somebody scared. As far as the feat, Scarecrow does use a lot of chemicals and stuff to try and make the perfect fear concoction. And I think a way we can play with this a bit is by taking the feat Poisoner. This makes it so if you happen to deal any poison damage, you can ignore your enemy's resistance to poison. You can apply poison to any weapon or piece of ammunition as a bonus action, and you gain proficiency with a poisoner's kit. So you can apply some poison to any weapon that you might wield, and if you poison your enemy in any way, they have to make a DC 14 Constitution saving throw, or take 2d8 poison damage, and become poisoned until the end of your next turn. And poisoned is one heck of a condition to deal with because it makes it so you have disadvantage on all of your attack rolls and ability checks. Then we have to choose a background. And Scarecrow is a psychiatrist. He does plenty of studying and he conducts experiments to inflict fear on his patients. So because there's plenty of research being done, I'm going to choose the background Cloistered Scholar. This gives us skill proficiencies in history and one other skill of our choice. So we're going to take nature. Now it's time to sort out some stats. We're going to keep it pretty straightforward. Dump strength. We need some nimbleness to avoid getting completely bludgeoned by Batman. So we're going to take our dexterity, boost it up to 15, and then get another +1 from our human variant choice. Then we're going to take our constitution, bring it to a respectable 14, but we're not going to mess with it too far beyond that because I don't see Scarecrow as having a lot of constitution. And then we're going to take our intelligence, bring it up to 15, and then get another +1 from being a human variant, bringing it to 16. Scarecrow is a psychiatrist. He does lots of studying, and I feel like that relies mostly on intelligence. That leaves us with a couple points left over, so we're going to put them into wisdom, bringing them to a very even 10, and then we're going to have to dump charisma. And this actually makes sense because Scarecrow is not very well liked even amongst villains. I mean, he's even known for inflicting fear, and outside of the Blackest Night comics, the Yellow Lanterns, which are entirely based on fear, have pretty much ignored him because they just don't think he's good enough. Granted, they have literal gods helping them out as well, so maybe they just don't think he's powerful enough, but still, if he had some more charisma, maybe he'd be able to convince them. Then when it comes to a starting class, it should be no surprise with all that intelligence, we're diving into Wizard. When you choose Wizard at first level, you get a few weapons like daggers, darts, and slings, so you have some way to coat a weapon in poison, which is helpful, and then you get saving throws in intelligence and wisdom. Then you get to choose 2 skills. So we're going to grab Arcana and Medicine because that feels the most fitting for Scarecrow. Then as you jump into some actual levels of Wizard, you get some spell casting, and you can actually have an unlimited amount of spells in your spell book, but you can only have an amount of spells prepared on any given day equal to your intelligence modifier plus your wizard level. Additionally, at first level of wizard, you get some arcane recovery, so you can regain some spell slots on a short rest, but most of the time you're going to be relying on a long rest. Then at second level of wizard, you get an arcane tradition, otherwise known as a subclass. And we're going to be having some real fun role-playing this as much as possible. We could go with the subclass enchantment because you're kind of enchanting your enemies, but in reality, most enchanting is all about charming your enemies, and we don't want to do that. We want to make them terrified. And most of the time when we do that, we're going to be bringing their nightmares to life. So we're going to take the arcane tradition, illusion. Then we can really get creative whenever we're actually role-playing, because then we can come up with the scariest things possible. Wizards are fairly straightforward. They just get some stronger spellcasting as they level up, a handful of ability score improvements, and then they get a couple features at really high levels. So let's just go ahead and dive through this subclass. When you choose the School of Illusion, you get Illusion Savant. So anytime you spend to copy an illusion spell into your spellbook, costs half as much time and money. Then at second level in the Illusion subclass, you get Improved Minor Illusion. You automatically get the Minor Illusion cantrip, and it doesn't count against the amount of cantrips you know. Not to mention when you cast Minor Illusion, you can create both sound and image with a single casting of the spell, when usually you'd have to choose one or the other. Then once you hit 6th level of Illusion Wizard, you get Malleable Illusions. So when you cast an illusion that has a duration of 1 minute or longer, you can use an action to change the nature of the illusion. So you can constantly shift it to whatever you think your enemy would be most scared of. Then once you hit 10th level in this subclass, you get Illusory Self, so you can create an illusory duplicate of yourself as an instant, almost instinctual reaction to danger. So if somebody's about to make an attack roll against you, you can use your reaction to interpose an illusory duplicate between the attacker and yourself, making it so the attack automatically misses, but you can only use this feature once per short or long rest. And this is very helpful because you don't have a lot of health to play around with. Scarecrow tends to be somewhat fragile. So when you look at something like the Arkham games, where you're totally messing with Batman's head and he doesn't know what's real and what's what, this is definitely going to be a way to play with that and make sure that you stay out of danger. Then at 14th level of this subclass, you get Illusory Reality. Your magic gets to the point where weaving shadow magic into your illusions makes them semi-real. So when you cast an illusion spell of 1st level or higher, you can choose one inanimate or non-magical object that's part of the illusion and make that object real. The object remains real for 1 minute, and in the D&D books, this gives an example of creating an illusionary bridge that crosses over a big chasm and making it real so your allies can walk across it. This actually has a caveat that says the object can't deal damage or otherwise directly harm anyone, but it doesn't say anything about maybe helping somebody and then taking it away. So with the same example of creating a bridge that your allies can cross over, how about you let your enemies cross over it and then suddenly that bridge disappears. They plummet to their death and you get to live up your villainous role-playing. That gets through everything in the subclass. Once you hit high levels in Wizard, you also get Spell Mastery at 18th level, allowing you to choose one 1st level Wizard spell and one 2nd level Wizard spell that are in your spellbook, and you can cast them at will without using any spell slot, as long as you're casting them at their lowest level. Then once you hit max level in Wizard, you get Signature Spells. So you can have 2 3rd level Wizard spells that don't count against the number of spells that you have prepared, and you can cast them each at 3rd level without expending a spell slot. But you can only do this once per short or long rest. That gets you all the way to the 20th level, and you also get 5 ability score improvements as you level up in Wizard. So I would just go ahead and throw 2 of them into Intelligence, bringing that to 20, 2 of them into Dexterity, bringing that to 20. Then with your last ability score improvement, we're just going to keep it simple, throw it into Constitution. It'll help your health and your ability to concentrate on spells. Now it's time to dive into the real heart of this build, the spells, because you need to make sure you inflict as much fear as possible. When it comes to the cantrips, we already know that we get Minor Illusion for free, but we want to stick to either really scary stuff or things that mess with somebody's mind directly. So thinking about horror movies and how you always have that like creepy lighting that sways back and forth, I would grab Dancing Lights just to create a bit of ambiance, and then we'll dive into some damaging stuff. We'll grab Mind Sliver for a straight up mental attack, Toll the Dead to make somebody scared of their impending doom, and then a lot of people are scared of bugs, so we're going to grab the cantrip Infestation, causing somebody to be covered in parasites and bugs, dealing some poison damage to them and forcing them to randomly run in a direction. Then when it comes to some 1st level spells, you got to grab some basics like Mage Armor. You're an illusionist, so definitely grab Silent Image, grab the infamous Silvery Barbs, as well as Disguise Self to make sure you can throw on that mask, and you absolutely have to grab the spell Cause Fear. And this is going to be one of our spell mastery spells, because you always want to have this prepared and you want to be able to cast it at will without ever having to worry about some spell slots. Then when it gets to 2nd level, you want to grab stuff like Detect Thoughts because you are a psychiatrist, grab Crown of Madness just to make somebody a little crazy from their fears, then definitely throw in Mirror Image and Suggestion, but the real one that we want to focus on is Phantasmal Force. This is about crafting illusions that take root in your mind and deal damage to your enemies, almost like their own fears are coming to life and hurting them. Then when it gets to 3rd 3rd level spells, grab Hypnotic Pattern just to kind of mesmerize people, but that's just kind of getting them stupefied. Grab Major Image and Phantom Steed just because they're illusion spells. Then grab Spirit Shroud because this is going to make you just generally pretty creepy because it makes it so spirits of the dead flit around you for the entire spell's duration. And whenever you make an attack, it deals an extra 1d8 damage. But one spell that fits more than most is Enemies Abound. This makes it so whoever you cast it on constantly thinks that there's enemies around them, which is something that Scarecrow would definitely do. And I've definitely had some fun with this spell in the past. Then when it comes to 4th level spells, you gotta grab stuff like Hallucinatory Terrain and Phantasmal Killer because that's definitely about bringing somebody's fears into their mind. But then you gotta grab some stuff that's just generally creepy, like bringing a nightmare to life, similar to Black Tentacles, Blight, or Summon Greater Demon or Summon Aberration. There's not a ton at 5th level, but you want to grab some illusion spells like Dream and Mislead. Then once you hit 6th level, you're going to want to make sure you really embody that scary disguise. So grab Tasha's Otherworldly Guise. Then grab some generally creepy spells like Circle of Death, Create Undead, and Summon Fiend. And then you really want to mess with people's minds and make them feel the fear with a spell like Mental Prison. You can make those fears come to life even more at 7th level with Project Image and Mirage Arcane. A lot of these are going to really rely on your creativity as a player because you get to describe whatever your enemy is seeing. But if you want to make sure you just do some damage, also grab Power Word Pain. It's definitely a mental related spell and just makes your enemies feel suffering. Then once you get to 8th level spells, you're going to want to stun somebody with fear with Power Word Stun, make them go absolutely insane and be scared of the dark with Maddening Darkness. And then who isn't scared of a giant dragon ready to kill them? So grab Illusory Dragon. But if you completely destroy somebody's mind with the amount of fear that you're inflicting, you can also grab Feeble Mind. Then there is a 9th level spell that is absolutely perfect for inflicting the most amount of horrific things you can on somebody and just destroying their mind with fear. And the 9th level spell to choose here is also an illusion spell. And that's Weird. The spell Weird specifically states it's drawing upon the deepest fears of a group of creatures. You create illusory creatures in their minds, visible only to them. They have to make a wisdom saving throw, and on a failed save, they become frightened for the duration of this spell. At the end of each of the frightened target's turns, it must succeed on a wisdom saving throw, or take 4d10 psychic damage. And 4d10 psychic damage over the course of 1 minute means a full 10 rounds on a 30-foot radius sphere of enemies. So that means each enemy can take up to 40d10 psychic damage. And if you have a packed crowd, that is absolutely insane to the point that I don't really want to do the math. That brings you all the way to 20th level and all of the spells that we would really want to focus on, although I'll throw a few more up on Patreon where I have the character sheet for this build and all of my other builds. But if you really wanted to optimize a pure fear-based build, I would swap out a couple things. It wouldn't be true for Scarecrow, but I wanted to make sure that people knew how to make as frightening of a character as possible. Instead of going intelligence, go with charisma, move all of your points in there, and go with a bard. This will give you the opportunity to grab expertise in some skills, so make sure you grab expertise in intimidation. And then when you get to choose a subclass, grab College of Whispers. This will give you psychic blades, so you can make more psychic based attacks, and you get the feature Words of Terror, just a direct feature that is all about frightening somebody, make people super paranoid with Mantle of Whispers, which is the 6th level feature of that subclass, but that's more about disguising yourself as somebody who killed, but you can use that for very scary effects. And then once you hit 14th level of that subclass, you get Shadow Lore. And Shadow Lore is all about tapping into a creature's deepest fears, making somebody so frightened of you they just do whatever you say because they're absolutely terrified based on this feature. You can grab plenty of similar spells, and if you really want to grab anything specifically from the wizard spell list, bards have the feature Magical Secrets, allowing them to grab a spell from any spell list. It's just how I would optimize a fear-based build, but I kind of like the ability to come up with whatever you want and the creativity of being an illusion-based wizard. Let me know which build you would prefer in the comments down below, and if you want access to the character sheet for this build or any of my other builds, feel free to check out my Patreon, linked in the description down below, just like like all of these incredible people. And the especially incredible player character patrons, Dana Albader, Massey Sala, Andrew Nobles, Alex, Melendez Robinson, Karkat Kitsune, Z13, Yaksha Senpai, The Dino 21, and Benjamin. Then going above and beyond that is my Dungeon Master level patrons that I actually DM sessions for and we play D&D together, which I stream over on Twitch and then upload the VODs here on YouTube. Daniel Sweeten, Conman ZX, Nathaniel Sims, Cyberciety, Firebeam, Talon Starkey, Demiurge, Daniel Galvin, Michael, Eric Wade, Salvador, Kilo, and Heyo. Then going above anything I could possibly imagine is my God tier level patron. He helps me more than I ever expected, and that's Game Steak. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button, and I'll be here helping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to inflict fear upon your enemies and conquer Arkham or Gotham, or just plain old destroy the Batman as Scarecrow in Dungeons and Dragons.